and I said it in the introduction, and that was the first thing I thought as I opened the book and read your wife's forward. Um, my first thought
Which, by the
was,
way, as she's listening, best part of the book, 100%, right? You know, it's the whole reason to buy the book. Everything that comes afterwards is just fucking boring
she
repetition.
called out. She goes, "Look, if you don't want to read all the filler in this motherfucker, just skip the part about
Just read that. It's 8 pages in
just
it.
read it. Skip the part about Marx." That's all.
Yeah.
Jay, it's like she was sending me a message. Jay, look, it's like 340 pages. Really, you don't have time.
Yeah, you don't have time for that.
So tell her I said thank you.
I will.
But seriously, in this moment that we live in, I just had these two younger people from your side of Canada on that kind of talk about these extremely niche political ideologies that we see younger people being a part of, where it's just a lot of people that are an army of one. Also, you see a lot of younger people love generational conversations, and it's almost like they don't understand that generational conversations, even as much as identity conversations, all comes from branding and marketing. And it's like everyone's trying to figure out what your market niche is and how it differs from their market niche before anyone can even listen to anything you have to say. So, what who's giving you the most backlash? Is it coming from a younger crowd or older crowd or all of the above? Are you getting any backlash at all? Are people receptive to this idea? Or is liberal in the world that we kind of exist in still a bit of a pejorative?
Oh, I'd say it's definitely still a bit of a pejorative. And look, I can understand why, right? I mean, I always joke with our mutual buddy, Ben Burgess, right? That before I moved to the United States, I had no idea why so many American leftists just use the word liberal with such visceral hatred. And then I moved here and I realized that there's just a kind of centrist personality that basically thinks that what an upper middle class New Yorker imagines to be the right thing to do is the universal morality for all humankind, and anything that deviates from that is just bizarre. And I was like, oh, I get it now. I really do. These people are really annoying and they have no imagination, and they also have no fucking idea how hard it is for some people, and why the moral values of an upper middle class New Yorker might not be shared by everyone. But in terms of like the book's broader reception, I'm actually fairly happy with it. Not because everyone's liked the book, but precisely because it seems to have actually provoked a reasonable amount of controversy. Right. I've had a lot of ultra Marxist and kind of hard left people say, "What a fucking shitty idea! How dare you do this?" Or "This is just reformism," or "generic social democracy," etc., etc. But I've also had a couple who've reached out to me, being like, "Look, it's an interesting idea. We're not sold yet, but we're open to hearing a little bit more about that." And those are the kind of dialogues I like because they're fruitful. And even if you don't always come away agreeing with one another, uh, you usually learn a little bit from them. Now, on the most interesting response I have to say, though, is which kind of disturbs me, is on the opposite end of the political spectrum, because they're kind of center right people who are, without a doubt, the most visceral opponents of the book. Um, these are the kinds of people who are still, ride or die with Reagan. And they'll say,
Gotcha.
fucking liberal socialism, what a fucking travesty. We can't stand this. Hayek would be rolling around in his grave. But then you get to the far right, and some people on the far right where, yeah, that's what we've been saying forever, right? Liberal socialists, all the same. And that's disturbed me a little bit, although I've written on the political right quite extensively, as you know, so it didn't exactly surprise me, right? But this variety of reactions does encourage me to think that I'm onto something, and at the very least, it looks like people are interested in the book. And what else could an author really want, right?
If you called it anything else, a more democratic socialism, do you think that would have went over better, or do you care?
I do care, and the reason I care is a big motivation behind writing this book was I did want to argue to my fellow leftists that there are many features of the liberal tradition that are worth saving. And the label was important to that because if I'd used something else, then the message might not have gone over as clearly, right? So when I talk to most leftists and I ask them, like, look, do you believe that everyone should have a right to vote? Almost all of them will say, Absolutely. What a fucking dumb question. Of course, we believe everyone should have the right to vote. I asked them, do you believe in things like freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of association, particularly for political movements? They'll go, yes. If anything, the big problem is that we don't think those rights are safe in the hands of the liberal state, let alone the reactionary state. And there are some good reasons to be reserved about that. But when you run through the list like this, I kind of am like, look, so a lot of us are committed to many of the basic liberal rights. If anything, we want to be more militant in defending them than a lot of centrist liberals who are willing to trade them away for protections of things like private property. The big difference, of course, between liberal socialists and classical liberals is around the idea of private property, right? Classical liberals treat private property to be one of, if not the most important of the liberal rights that need to be defended. And sometimes they're very express about this, right? Ludwig von Mises, fascist apologist and self-identified liberal, once said, all the liberal rights basically flow from this right to private property and are kind of downstream of it. And liberal socialists would, of course, disagree with that. They'd say, again, that a right to personal property is, of course, extremely important. Nobody wants the state coming in and booting you out of your house or taking your car for no goddamn good reason or whatever. But the commanding heights of the economy, the modes of production or the forces of production, those should be socialized because allowing private industry to own the means of production or the commanding heights of economy creates extraordinary distortions of power in society that are antithetical to equal citizenship and the flourishing of all. And we can't have that very much longer.
I agree. I can't disagree with that. I just can't.